are assembly instructions to my tiered cube pop-up card. I'm starting with my card base, and it's cut out of craft board. There's a score line in the center. I've just folded down on the score line. And then I have two panels for the interior of my card. The panels for my interior are cut out of patterned cardstock. I'm just putting glue on the underside of both of them, gluing them to the card base so that there's an even border all the way around. So next I'm going to work on my rooftop and my brick pieces. So my rooftop pieces are cut out of this dark taupe, and my brick pieces are cut out of this red. So I'm starting with the shingles for my roof, and I'm using a Posca pen. This is a white one, and it shows nicely on dark colors. I have a solid band on the left, and I have these little tooth-like shapes on the right. And I'm just adding a little bit of white to the right-hand side, and I'm going to continue doing that with all of my shingle pieces. So now that I've colored in my shingles for my rooftop, I'm going to glue them onto the corresponding panels. I've already glued down the shingles on one of my rooftop pieces. Now I'm going to work on the second one. I have two different types of shingle pieces. One has two thin strips of shingles on either end, and the other one has wider shingles on either end. As I'm gluing them down, I want to alternate between the two groups. I'm starting with one of the shingle pieces that has the thin shingles, and I'm just gluing it down to the bottom of my roof piece. So I want the edge of my shingle piece to be right along the edge of my roof piece. And then I'm going to take shingle piece from the second pile. So this one has the wider shingles at either end. I'm putting glue on the underside of it, and I'm placing it right above the previous layer, but I want the very bottom of this one to be right at the top of the cutout between the pieces on the previous layer. So the edges are even, the bottom of my shingles are right at the top of that cutout between the shingles on the previous layer. I'm just working my way upwards on my roof piece, gluing down my shingle pieces the exact same way, being sure to alternate between the two different styles. So I've added the last row that's on the top of my panel, and I'm going to add a layer that goes past the edge of the panel. Then I'm going to flip my piece over, and I'm just cutting along the edge of the panel like so. So I have 4 extra pieces, I'm just discarding them. So these are the panels for my brick pieces, and these are the brick pieces. Very much like the shingle pieces, there are 2 varieties of them. So one style with the wide pieces at the end, and the other style with the narrower. And I'm going to alternate them and glue them down exactly as I did for my roof pieces. So I've already done one of the longer panels. I'm going to do the second one. So I've used a pencil and a ruler, and I've drawn horizontal lines all the way up. And that helps me keep my brick layers nice and straight. For my 2 long decorated panels and 2 of my short decorated panels, I have my white snow detail to glue to the top. I'm just putting glue on the underside of my little snow pieces and just gluing them to the top of my brick panels. I want them flush at the top and on both sides. And these are for the lower part of the fireplace. I've cut some of my trim pieces out of vinyl, so I'm applying them to the cardstock. I'm using a piece of transfer tape that I have stuck to my jeans a few times just to make them a little less sticky. My stockings are print and cut, and I am gluing them to a cardstock layer. So those brown lines are my mantle, and I want my stockings to be hanging from my mantle. So I want to make sure there's enough room below for my stockings to hang. So I'm gluing them down on approximately the 3rd row of brick from the top. And I'm just gluing down my stockings, and then just gluing down my holly leaves on top. So I'm just adding some adhesive back rhinestones as my little holly berries. So next I have the logs for my fire, and I have 2 of them. I have the darker part cut out of vinyl and the lighter part cut out of cardstock. And I am just adhering my vinyl to the cardstock base. I've cut the base for all my fireplace pieces out of red cardstock, and I'm gluing on one of the logs. The top log has the cut of the log towards the right, and the bottom log has the part that's chopped off the log towards the left. Then I have the wrought iron holder for my fireplace, and then I'm just gluing over the top of the rest of the images. So next I have my card base and the pop-up pieces. So I'm just folding down on all the score lines for them. I'm starting with the largest of the 5 pieces. This is the outside of my panel, and this is the underside. I'm folding down on that side tab, putting glue all over it, bringing the other end over and folding my piece flat. So the cut edge of the other end is right on the score line of my tab. So next I have the 2 other pieces. I'm doing the same thing with the 2 other pieces. This is the outside of my piece. This is the inside. I'm folding the side tab over, bringing the end of my panel over, and gluing it right to the score line of that side tab. And I'm doing the exact same thing with my second piece. So then I have these 2 pieces. I folded down on the score lines for them, and I'm putting glue from the score line to the end on one of those tabs. I have the seam of my box right here towards the back, and I'm inserting this piece. This panel is approximately centered in the inside of my box. So on the other end, I'm folding the tab back, and I'm just sneaking in there and covering it with glue. And then I'm laying my piece flat, and I'm just using my bone folder to spread the glue on that tab that I just put glue on. So then when I pop it up, it's upright. So I'm doing that for the second one as well. I'm putting glue all over one of the tabs, and I'm putting it inside my shape and gluing it down as straight as possible, trying to center it onto my shape. And I'm going in there and I am folding this tab backwards onto the shape, and I'm covering it with glue. And with that tab folded in the opposite direction, I'm laying my panel flat. So I have my tall box and I have my 2 shorter boxes. I'm going to glue my shorter boxes to my tall box. So I want those walls within my box to be vertical. I'm putting glue all over one of the sides of my smaller box. I'm gluing it to the bottom of my tall box, and it's easier if you just flatten the box onto the side of the taller box like so. That way you can make sure everything's nice and straight. So next I'm gluing the second one in. I'm making sure that that wall is vertical, and then I'm putting glue all over one side of my box, and I'm placing it on the adjacent side from the box I've just glued in. Again, I'm folding it flat. When it's flat, this box should fit right within the score lines and the edges of the taller box. So I have my card base, and this is the position that my chimney is going to take on my card. So I want this part of my chimney to be directly on the fold line of my card, and I want to place it towards the back. So I'm going to fold up the panel that's on the right, and I'm putting glue all over the bottom panel like so, from the score line to the 3 other edges of that bottom panel. And then I'm positioning my tall box so that these 2 corners are directly on the fold line. And then I'm bringing this box down, and I'm going in with my bone folder. I'm just making sure that it's properly glued down, and I'm just spreading that glue in. So next I'm going to collapse my box so that it's all on the right hand side, and I want to put glue on this square. So I'm just covering it from the score line to the edge. I'm just covering that entire square with glue, and then I'm going to close my card, and I'm applying pressure where I've just put that glue, so it's approximately here. So then when I open my card, it pops up. So next I'm going to glue down all my decorative panels. I'm looking at the tall panels at the back, so I'm putting glue on the underside of them, and then I'm gluing them down to the tall part of my box. And then I have the 2 other pieces with the snow on them and gluing them to that segment here. And then I have the 2 rooftop pieces, so they're going to go here. Then I have the panels with the stockings on them. I'm gluing them down to the bottom. And then I have my Santa. Now for my Santa, I want to put him in the chimney so that he doesn't go past the edge of my card. So I'm putting the glue on the bottom portion of him. So the panel at the bottom and then the next panel over. I'm closing the card, making sure that he doesn't go past the edge of my card, and gluing him down that way. And then I have my bag of toys. And again, as you close it, you want to make sure that it doesn't go past the edge of the card. So next I'm working on the mechanism for my little log image. So I have two pieces. The one on the right has a little cutout in it, and the one on the left looks like a very slender T on its side. I'm going to take my T piece and I'm inserting it from the top into my other piece. I'm putting glue on the underside of that T-shaped piece, so from the end till about 3/4 way. And then I'm placing it on that vertical panel in my box. So I want it to be as level as possible, so as straight as possible. As I pull on the other piece, it should be about 1/4 inch from the side of my quarter partition. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of the other end, and I'm gluing it to the front of the vertical wall on the other side, like so. And then I'm closing down my card. I'm putting glue on the top of my T piece right here. Then I'm taking my log piece and I'm laying it down on my card, and I want it to be on this side of the fold. Folding my card down, and I'm putting a little bit of pressure where that glue is. And then I'm working on the cover of my card. I've got some gold foil craft board, and then I have some pattern cardstock. I'm just gluing that down. Then I have 4 layers of lettering. So I'm putting glue on them and layering them up on top of one another. I'm trying my best to keep the edges all even. I'm doing that with the 4 layers for Mary and the 4 layers for Christmas. Now that I've glued the layers together, I'm carefully putting glue on the underside of my words, and I'm gluing them onto the front of my card. So next I'm putting glue on the underside of it, and then I'm just gluing it on the cover of my card.